So now we are going into a constitutional law. Constitutional law of any country is the law which is based upon a study of constitutional law can be made on the basis of a chart drawn for the moment the Constitution was adopted. Constitutional law can be studied on the basis of a chart drawn for the moment when the Constitution was adopted, not when the Constitution was being framed, not when the Constitution was being debated, not when the Constitution went around from one state to the other to get ratified. When the moment it fulfilled the requirements of ratification and became law, that is the chart. In this case, you see the United States constitutional law, many people use a chart older than the one that I use. The chart that I use for the US Constitution is the 1788 chart. People use a chart which is older than that. They say that was the chart when the Constitution was signed by the framing fathers. But just because somebody signed the Constitution doesn't mean that it had become law. It had to be ratified by 9 states. That was the minimum requirement. And the last state to ratify it was, I think it was New Hampshire, isn't it? Americans, where are you? Are you in America or somewhere else nowadays? The 9th state was New Hampshire. Was it New York? When did New York give the ratification? After that, right. I have given a brief history in my paper. So that will also help to brush up your own history, and you can do more studies on that. Please have your history correct. Be clear about what we are doing. Now, is this clear? Is the chart clear? Good. As I told you, the Lagna is the most important point, because in constitutional law, the Lagna, or the first house, Aries, was the most important point. The law is decided by the Lagna itself. If the Lagna is weak, the law will not be followed. If the Lagna is strong, the law will be obeyed. Can we debate on this Lagna? Is it strong or is it weak? Firstly, it is Libra, superb. Why? Why is it superb? It is in a quadrant from Aries. That is very important, because Aries is the natural house of constitutional law. And any Lagna which is in a quadrant or trine from Aries is strong. So the Lagna rising is in Kendra from Aries, number 1. 2, the Lagna Lord Venus is in the 10th house. Okay? The 9th Lord is also conjoined the 10th Lagna Lord, forming a very powerful Raja Yoga in the 10th house. Brilliant minds have gone into making of this law. Extremely brilliant minds. Saturn retrogrades in the 5th house in Aquarius. There's a lot of legal philosophy which has been debated upon. You can see that. How much of philosophy has come into making of this law? How is Aquarius? Aquarius is the 5th house. Brilliant. Okay, what else can you tell me about this? Plus points and the minuses. I want both. 10th Lord is in the 4th house. What is the 4th house in a chart when we are discussing constitutional law? The 4th house is the land over which this law will apply. If the 4th house is very well disposed, the fourth house is, the moon in the fourth house is having Digbala, directional strength. That means the land will grow. The land over which this law will apply is bound to grow. If you see the map of the United States, at the time when this chart came into being, it was a tiny little map. It was a very tiny little map with only 9 states having signed it, and tiny, tiny states, not the big ones. The big ones were out of it. But you see, because this moon has Digbala in the fourth house, slowly, slowly, all the states signed it. Not only that, you will see that because of the strength of this moon and this Saturn, strong Saturn, fourth lord in Mula Trikona, in trine, and strong moon having Digbala in the fourth house, ensured that the land over which this law will apply will increase. Alaska came in. So many states came in after that, right? So this is the chart which is very, by studying this chart we really get to know what are the plus points and what are the minus points. Now, which is the house where the law is changed? Eighth house is the house of transformation. So if any transformation has to take place, it must come from the eighth house. Do we have a planet in the eighth house? We have a debilitated Ketu over there. So you can see that the nodal axis is going to cause this law to change, or amendments will be made to this law. This law will not be rigid. Whenever you study this chart, you must understand, you must check how rigid it is. Look at the eighth house. If the eighth house is very rigid, then the law will be rigid. There are no planets in the eighth. I mean, there is no transformation taking place. There are no debates taking place before the transformation. That means the law is very rigid. And what is rigid will break. Simple rule. That which is, have you ever seen a rubber band fall down and break? It never breaks because it is not rigid at all. A glass, if it falls down, it is bound to break because it is rigid. That which is rigid must break. That which is flexible will survive longer. Okay? So it must have scope for transformation. And how is this transformation taking place? Is it taking place because of a battle? Is it taking place because of a debate? Ketu is the second lord. So when the second lord is in the eighth house, debates can cause transformations. Ketu by nature is war, fighting. Fighting can also cause transformation. Rahu is the lord of fifth house, Aquarius. Thought, deep thinker, philosopher. All kinds of modern philosophies, all kinds of modern thoughts will cause transformation. Mars is in a quadrant from this, aspecting Saturn. So this Saturn Mars are also going to cause serious debates and transformations.